Hey guys, welcome back to an episode of Arcane Assist. We're really excited for a couple of reasons. First of all, we had the massive theme drop very recently, so we're going to be gradually featuring all of the new themes. And in this game, we're featuring the new Retribution Dawnguard theme, which is, I believe, called... Can't be
The
called
Legion
Dawn of War.
of Dawn.
Legion of Dawn. That makes more sense. Also, in our promise to feature all of the Grimkin casters, I am playing the Wanderer today. Took a little bit of a hiatus while I prepped everything for the WTC, but I'm back now and joined by Evan this week.
Sup?
So, should be a really, really fun game. We rolled off to go first. I won the die roll, chose first turn. I'm playing Wanderer in Bump in the Night. That's the infantry-based theme list. We've played a couple of Grimkin games of Dark Menagerie. This is the other theme list that really sort of solidifies what you see in lists. For the battle group, I have a Cage Rager and 3 Gorehounds. The units I've got in the list are 2 max units of Hollow Men. One of them has a Lantern Man. The other unit does not. I've got 2 max units of Nayslayers. They're the core of the list, if I can say so. I have the Twilight Sisters to add a little bit of a recursion element to the list and help with some late game magic weapons and grievous wounds and such. I have Lord Longfellow as one of the free solos available to me. 2 Witchwoods, both also free solos in the theme force. And I believe that is everything.
All right.
Oh, very importantly, I missed a unit of Murder Crows.
Oh.
They get ambushed in the theme. I've chosen to advance deploy them. The list that Evan's playing is fairly central, and I find sometimes ambushing them, you lose 2 or 3 turns of their efficacy, especially if there's not a lot that can threaten them early in the game. So I put them on the AD line in this list, and I think it's the right call.
Cool. So I have brought a Magister Helynna list in Legions of Dawn. Now, I believe this was Mike Ireland's list you were saying, Tim?
Yeah, Mike posted something about this on Vicarious Competition.
I believe that's what the website is called.
That's Mike's blog. It's a good thing. You should check it out if you haven't before already. It's a great resource for rep players. Based on model availability and no other good reason, we've made a slight change to this list, which is, I think, probably just straight a worse version of it. We dropped one of the Manticores that's in Mike's version of the list and a Solus Escort to have a Hydra in the army. And against an infantry list like the one that I'm presenting, something like the double Manticore to drop 2 covering fire templates would probably be better, which I'm sure is one of the reasons it's in Mike's original list. But, this is what we had on hand, and I think it showcases the list well, and I'm excited to give it a whirl.
Yeah, it's super fun and has a lot of really cool tech, especially in terms of, it's a cool combined arms list that features a lot of high armor sentinels and some jacks with really good guns, namely a Manticore, a Phoenix, and a Hydra. I also have Silas. I have 3 Arcanist mechanics, 2 units of Dawnguard sentinels with officers, and my favorite part of the list by far is a Dawnguard sentinel sire with a griffin. Now, the theme benefits are that I get some free stuff. I get 2 inches extra deployment, and one of the neatest theme benefits, I think by far, is while controlled by a Jack Marshal, Retribution Warjacks in the army gain flank Dawnguard.
It's a really, really cool benefit. It makes that lowly Griffin a pretty impressive armor cracking piece, and it also means that it can operate kind of really independently off on a flank with that sire.
Mm-hmm. Or if you really need it to, you can even allocate it focus with the Arcanists.
Yeah, the list does feature 3 Arcanists, which I think is pretty essential to the way that it can often play out. I know Marshal Jacks that still have access to focus are maybe one of the most powerful things. I played a lot of Iron Lich Overseer Marshaled Seether in the Witch Coven, and Warwitch Sirens giving that even a couple of points of focus, plus it already having access to a free charge, meant that you could get the most out of those Jack Marshal benefits.
Yeah. Even things like Double Grey Lord, Forge Seer, and Behemoth is pretty brutal. But yeah, that's the lists we have. Let's head into the game.
Grimkin turn 1. So, I've got a couple of thoughts in this game. The terrain is actually a little bit of an issue for me on this side. What I want to do is be able to really position Nayslayers behind units of Hollowmen to take out Evan's heavies. but kind of a little bit condensed by the placement of the shallow water in the middle of the board. I put the models that have Pathfinder behind it, like the Murder Crows and the Wanderer himself, the Gorehounds who have Ghostly. But it's kind of put my Holomen in a bit of an awkward spot. So after the apparition, you can see they're a little bit centrally deployed. And while I stand by my decision to advance deploy the Murder Crows, they are kind of jamming up my situation here. Put the Witchwoods kind of on the slightly more open side of that obstruction in the middle of the board, which I'm hoping will give me the option to do some nastiness to Sentinels. And I put Prey on the bottom unit of Sentinels. So I'm hoping that the Murder Crows can do a bunch of work against them. And just like that, Wanderer walks up, casts Fog of War and Starcrossed. The Holomen activate. After apparating, they run 10 inches. Kind of try to flood the space in front of them. Hoping to make use of their apparition to unpack them a little bit on the second turn. The Murder Crows are just running up, trying again to also create some space, unpack themselves. Stay out of threat range of Sentinels, but still be in a position to maybe do work against them next turn. Same thing with the Witches.
So what's your plan? What is your prime target here? What are you most worried about getting to your side of the table?
Well, I've got some pretty reasonable armor cracking in the list. Nayslayers are very effective at that. And then I've chosen as my Arcana, I had to choose Divergent Path. I have Fortune's Path as one of my Arcana options, and then I also picked Ruin. Fortune's Path is pretty important. It's fairly common that you'll miss an attack roll because I'm a Starcrossed caster. So Fortune's Path is one of the damage multiplying effects I've got on my otherwise very defensively oriented Warlock. That means I've got to be a little bit careful that I use that at the right time. Because if I Fortune's Path into the turn that you feat, it really costs me a lot of my damage potential. It basically turns your feat into a +2 armor feat instead of a +3 armor feat. And what I need to do is I need to do work against you when you don't have it up. I also, if I expend a lot of my armor cracking resources like Nayslayers and big CRAs, something like the Cage Rager, on killing a whole bunch of Sentinels, I'm not going to be left with the tools necessary to deal with your fairly battle group heavy army. So there's kind of a yin and a yang against it. I basically have to be winning the game throughout multiple stages to deal with the kind of combined arms pressure that you actually bring.
All right. So I'm starting my turn. Helynna moves up, puts up Rhythm of War, puts up Decel. Manticore follows up, puts down a covering fire. Now I'm going to move my Sentinels in. Essentially, my plan here is to play the scenario pretty heavily. I want all three of my big heavy warjacks going up the middle, and I want both units of Sentinels essentially starting out on the flanks, picking off as many models as I possibly can, and hopefully winning that fight, then collapsing towards the middle in order to kind of box the Wanderer in. Because if I need to, or want to even, just go for assassination, he's such a cagey caster that's hard to pin down, especially because of his Trump Arcana, because that'll just let him teleport during my turn, which I really don't want. And those road markers are really a big pain, considering that if I touch them, a model in his control area,
yeah, it's
can just make
control,
a 2-inch advance, which is a problem.
It's all right. I think it's fair to say that that's a pretty decent effect.
So Sentinel's just bunching up behind that covering fire, making sure that not a whole unit of Murder Crows can come in and do their murdery thing. I feel like with Decel and Wall of Steel, they're in a pretty good position to not die to Hollow Men shots. Unfortunately, I'm kind of misplaying these Sentinels up at the top. I realize halfway through moving the unit that I'm running them out of decel range, and I don't need to be in the zone this turn. Important note for a lot of people is that you don't need to be in the zone turn 1. You don't necessarily need to be contesting, unless you're playing a super aggressive list that wants to just force people out of the zone this early, like something like Grave Diggers or any...
I mean, even Ghostly to a certain extent.
Exactly. Stuff like that, you don't need to be in the zone on 1. It's better to usually just stay out of your opponent's threat ranges anyway, and not lose pieces early on. It's not too terrible here because I can get some vengeance maybe, but it would have probably been better to just stay in D-cell range. Other than that, moving my models up, wrapping around kind of that rough terrain, and bunkering up Helynna so she doesn't just randomly die.
Yeah, don't get Helynna randomly killed. That's basically... I mean, don't get your caster randomly killed is a pretty reasonable piece of feedback.
Yeah. So that's my turn, and we're on to turn 2.
So there's a couple of start of turn effects. One of them is the maintenance phase. Do I jump to one of my road markers? I do. That lets me move up a little bit further up the board. I reeve my Fury in, upkeep Fog of War, and we're apparating Holloman. So there's a lot of beginning of turn effects. Keeping the order in mind is kind of a big deal. I've been practicing that because there's a lot of different phases of the turn, and it's easy to forget what. Well, I mean, technically there's only 2 phases of the turn, but it's really easy to forget, what happens at the beginning of the control phase, what happens at any point during the control phase, and what happens during the maintenance phase. So that's all of my beginning of turn effects, and I've gone pretty wide with both the units and Ace Layers, so I'm thinking I might want to unpack in this right-hand side a little bit better, so those Ace Layers can actually threaten the Jacks in the middle. Pretty fine with what's going on with the Nace Layers in the top right.
Yeah, Nace Layers are certainly something I did not give enough credit to early on in the CID process and when I was first starting to play against them. But they've definitely won me over in terms of the amount of work they can do.
They hit really hard. A lot of people, I don't know, it's easy to sort of dismiss the math or to do it and kind of just say oh, well, if on 3 dice you always roll a 10.5, then they do X amount of damage to a Khador Jack, so they're not that exciting. But, I mean, first of all, it seems like a really obvious thing to say, but you don't always roll a 10.5 on 3 dice. In fact, you never do. Additionally, they just, when you expect a certain percentage of your rolls to spike and a certain percentage to do nothing, they have so much damage potential available to them, especially against heavy targets.
However, I mostly have high armor infantry here.
Yeah, that's not the ideal target for Nace Layers.
As you move some Murder Crows in. They are, the Sentinels in the bottom here are the Murder Crow's prey target, so they are going to be able to get some work done, just not as much, as only one of them is going to be able to make an attack as it walked through the forest and the other one ran around.
Actually charged through the forest. He had line of sight over the covering fire.
Yes,
he charged through the forest because he had Pathfinder, and then the other guy ran around to provide him a gang bonus. Not the best use of the Murder Crows, but I'm hoping to kind of have them staggered in 2 waves, so Evan has to deal with the couple that are jamming him up and then the ones behind it. Unfortunately, no one handles 2 waves quite like Sentinels because they literally get to kill everything in front of themselves and then activate.
Yes, Starcrossed will make that harder for me because my vengeance won't be quite as effective, and basically if anything's left alive, then I'm not going to be able to charge out without taking some pretty hefty free strikes from prey gang Murder Crows, but, do what you can.
Boosted POW 13s.
Yeah. Gorehound. Yeah. Gorehounds, however, are super effective against Sentinels.
They're in a bit of a weird place. I mean, they can pull you out, which is cool, and they can sprint away, which is also pretty cool, but they... I don't know. They're still they're bringing POW 12s to an armor bazillion fight. It's tricky. I mean, I'm trying to get as much work against your Sentinels done as possible before you switch to Iron Zeal, Feet, all the whole 9 yards.
Correct. Because once that happens, it's +8 arm if I decide to cast D-Cell +10 against guns, which is not great when you're a bunch of military rifles. CRA helps, but to a point, not +10.
Yeah, I might be able to kill 1 if I roll pretty well. Gotta roll pretty well.
Yeah, it's a bad time. So what are you doing right now? Looks like you're just making some shots.
Taking some CRA shots. Just kind of trying to do the math well. They're Rat 5, but with CRA they can very, very rapidly go to, Rat 7 with 2 or Rat 8 with 3. So I'm just trying to, as I say, I'm trying to pick off as many Sentinels as I can. What it looks like I'm doing here is proccing Vengeance on 2 units and only doing minimal damage to each of them. But the real question is, even if I seed the amount of attrition value that you get out of getting full Vengeance activations on both Sentinels, the more damage I can do to you before your feet, the better chance I have of weathering the mid game, which is the point at which you're going to win or kind of lose the game. So we'll see if I'm right about that particular gambit. It's certainly giving you a lot of free movement and a lot of threat extension.
Also
on the
worth
Sentinels
noting,
in the back.
You proc Righteous Vengeance on both the Griffin and the Sire.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, the Griffin, of course, has flank Dawn Guard, which is a weird but unique benefit of this theme force, and I really dig it.
You're making some more CRAs in the bottom zone against those Sentinels. It's working out less effectively than you'd like. Against the top Sentinels, I didn't have decel, and there's my mistake coming to bite me. You eat 4 of them for breakfast.
Yep. Punish
So,
you for being out of decel range.
there you go. Remember your positioning, kids. You move up the Cage Rager pretty far here.
So in matches that I've played with this list historically, I've kept the Cage Rager back in a very second wave kind of position. I move him up here, and my goal is just stay out of threat range of the Phoenix, be really, really relevant so you can do work against enemy heavies on the following turn. That's the plan with how far I'm moving up the Cage Rager. I'm expecting he'll take like maybe 1 or 2 Sentinel charges, and he'll just finish those 2 pieces in retaliation.
This move is hilarious. So you use the lure, or Siren's Call rather,
Siren's Call, yep.
from the tree to walk this Dawn Guard Sentinel 5 inches and kill Silas with it.
Yep. Just trucks him in the face. So she says, hey, I've got apples. You should go kill Silas Wishnalair.
And he's like, okay. And then he does. Very successfully.
And all the other Sentinels look and they're like, why? What are you doing, buddy? And he's like, oh, was he partisan now? I thought we hated him.
So no free road to war upkeep. And here goes my vengeance move.
Rhythm of War.
Rhythm of War. I'm going to call it Road to War by accident
stop.
so many times.
It's Rhythm of War.
It's Rhythm of War.
Gotta feel the rhythm of your heart.
You know what? Now I'm just thinking of the Doof Warrior from Mad Max.
Wow.
Rhythm of War. Anyways, now I'm going to remember it. More Sentinel Vengeances. And also I moved the Griffin. Here we go. Stabbing a Murder Crow. Now this time you have Star-Crossed up, which is making it less effective. I forget to pull the Covering Fire template before I do Vengeance. So I, in my head, am thinking, oh, can't touch that. That'll go bad. But that's just entirely wrong. But here we go. Needing Star-Crossed 5s. Miss. That one hits. Super dead. Essentially, the plan here is clear out as much as I can in front of me, then Sentinels can clear out more of the zone. And since there's no real hard, heavy targets in this bottom zone, I don't need to get charges. I just need to hit, and Starcross is making that a problem.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent spell. Even on a 12-inch control area, Star-Crossed is a really, really powerful effect.
Yeah. And thanks to last turn, I just kind of empowered my Hydra a bunch, so he has 3 focus on him. Yay. I don't know what he's going to kill, but maybe something. We also have probably the more effective guns in this list are going to be the Phoenix gun, which is the AoE 3 fire, which against these very, very bunched up Hollowmen in the bottom zone is going to be very fun.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's pretty strong.
Now, I also have, up in the top zone here, a lot of Hollowmen to kill. I'm not too worried about the Nayslayers because there's not really any hard targets, and if they pick off some Sentinels, so be it. But I'm mostly going to focus on the Hollowmen. And also, I might be able to get a Sentinel charge on that Cage Rager now that I've Vengeanced forward, as well as the charge on that tree, Witchwood. And then maybe, just maybe if I can...
Witchwood?
Which is which?
Which is which wood? There's a who's on third joke here somewhere.
Probably. What's on second?
Yeah.
Anyways, so the Hollow Men are the kind of thing in the way here, and I'm gonna try to put some damage into that Cage Rager with the Griffin. I don't expect it to necessarily kill it, but I'll have a flank so I can maybe put some damage in, and then I'll have a Griffin pretty far up, and a Cage Rager will have to deal with a Griffin and won't be able to get into my Phoenix. Phoenix is going up. I see this great shot where I can boost to hit this Hollow Man, and the AoE will tag Longfellow. So I take it.
I screwed up the placement there. Longfellow should not have been as close to that Hollow as he was. Because if he has to shoot at Longfellow, I can at least reciprocate. But with the AoE blast, I don't have any choice.
I boost damage on Longfellow, and I crush it. He dies.
Poor Longfellow. A spider not long for this world.
That's great. I now no longer have to worry about this fortune-hunting Spider-Man.
Just killing Helynna.
Yeah, no, that'd be bad. So there's a Phoenix in the zone now. Woo!
I wonder if Longfellow is weirdly good at assassinating casters like Helynna, because he can just repudiate something, do a couple of points of damage to you, and then be like, oh, you're damaged and a character? 4 dice damage.
Bleh. But I don't have to worry about that. Now I'm realizing that there's only a Hollowman, a tree, and another Hollowman in this zone, so I can probably clear it and score. Actually, yeah, because I am bottom of 2.
Yep.
So I can score this turn. Woo! Sentinel charges are happening. 1 on the tree, 1 on the Cage Rager. Other places, mostly Hollowman. Just clearing out the zone, getting ready for next turn. They definitely mini-feat this turn. Get as many base-to-base as possible. Make it hard to kill them, essentially, is the moral of the story here. The one officer was not in Starcrossed range. He hit the Hollowman. The other 2 missed, except for the important one, which cleared the way to the Cage Rager. Almost kill a tree. Second guy kills a tree.
Yep.
Or, sorry, no, the second guy charged the Cage Rager and did a bunch of damage to it. He didn't charge the tree. So the tree is still alive with 2 boxes, except for the... Oh, sorry. I had forgot to move the one guy that killed Silas in the unit after I vengeanced him, but Tim was kind enough to let me charge with him as well.
And he finishes the tree.
So I did 8 boxes of the Cage Rager, killed a tree, and killed 2 Hollowmen.
It's pretty okay.
I'm measuring to the... what's her name? Twilight Sister? One of the 2. From the Hydra here. It's just kind of the only important shot I have. I guess I could shoot at the Cage Rager, but now it's engaged, and I want to stop the recursion that these Nayslayers are going to get if I try to kill any of them, and these Murder Crows. Just the recursion in general is a kind of a pain, because I have no way of stopping it other than killing those models.
Yeah, you've got to try to wipe full units, and with your force being primarily melee, backed up by some good battle group guns, it's rough to deal with Starcrossed, Fog of War, trying to kill whole units.
Yeah. I miss under Starcrossed because I needed an 11.
Possible, but not necessarily likely.
Yeah. These Arcanists are going. They're going to give this Griffin 2 focus and concentrated power. That way, it can actually put some decent damage into that Cage Rager. Being Mat 8, going to get Crush and can charge using a focus. So it's POW Strength 17 Weapon Master, effectively.
It's really, really good. Like, that feels like an actual heavy.
Yeah, no. It does a surprising amount of damage.
Like, what's Mullet Karn's base stat?
Mullet Karn is a POW 14 Weapon Master. Goes to 16 with Enrage, so he's 1 POW higher than Mullet Karn.
Yep. But, like, that's in the territory. You wouldn't expect that of a regular Griffin.
Yeah. So it's dice -2 on this Cage Rager. 4 dice on the charge. See how it goes, I guess.
Yep.
We're just confirming all the stats here because we weren't sure at the time if we were doing the math right.
Yeah. There's a lot of little things to consider, but he hits like a truck.
Like that. Does something like 16 damage or 14 damage. Second attack just bops a Hollow Man because of shields 0.5. Then starts buying into the thing. He did the crush one, so he gets +2 damage and an extra attack.
And he still got to charge because he had focus to spend to charge.
Yeah, and he killed the Cage Rager in 2 halberd hits thanks to the Sentinel.
Yeah.
And he had an extra attack to buy on a random Hollow Man. So that Griffin did way more work than we thought it would. Is there now.
If we'd done the math, like Mini Mullet Karn, Griffin hits really, really hard.
Yeah. That's some. Now I'm measuring the Manticore just to see what it can do. I still haven't really decided what I want to do with it this turn.
You've got an embarrassment of riches this turn.
Yeah. I just have extra stuff now because I don't have to commit to the Cage Rager. Kind of another thing I'm trying to do here is figure out an obliteration angle because I see a good target in the top zone on a Hollow Man. It could probably clip 2 Nayslayers, but then I have to get Helynna pretty far up there. Alternatively, I can arc it through this Phoenix at some Hollow Men, maybe clip a couple of them, but I really want to start taking some Nayslayers off the table because I just haven't killed any of them yet.
Yep.
And that scares me.
Because they'll be back.
Yeah. And I'd rather take away some combat actions.
Yeah. When they're returned, they do not get to make attacks. Typical of things that are returned.
So Helynna doesn't actually have any Nayslayers within range to just shoot or cast spells at. So we move on to the Sentinels. We'll save that for later.
Yep. Doing lots of work.
Sentinels, just going to do some charges. Charge more infantry, clear out what I can, get that last Hollow Man out of the zone, charge him twice to make sure of it. Only need a 5 to hit, but... Or is that a Murder Crow? They're both red, I can't tell.
Yeah, they're kind of interspersed. The Murder Crows are wearing like the long cloaks.
That is a Hollow Man. Yeah. I do kill him. He dies very, very readily. I also kill that Murder Crow because Starcrossed is for chumps. And I kill not that Hollow Man, but the next one, probably, I assume.
Yep.
I just got a lot of work done under Starcrossed. Or, yeah, there we go. Considering Starcrossed, we killed some stuff. And now there's just Iron Zealed Sentinels there. And this is definitely a feat turn for me. I'm going to do some stuff with Helynna and then just be safe forever. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's a pretty devastating turn.
Yeah. So this is where I activate Helynna. I still don't know what I want to do with her. So what I do is I decide I still want to take out some Nayslayers. So I'll just take a chance. I will target the out-of-range Nayslayer with Obliteration.
Yep.
And then just hope it scatters well.
Pretty bold move, but Obliteration's a big pie plate. So getting a favorable scatter with it isn't impossible.
Yeah, and you've already procced your Arcana this turn with Fortune's Path, and so I can just kind of rely on it not getting ruined. I scatter perfectly, hit 4 models, and just kind of kill all of them. It works out really well for me. After that, I feat, because this is definitely a feat turn. And I have a Manticore. I don't know where I want to put it, so I'm just going to... After this, move it up, dial up some shots, and take them at just like some Hollow Man, probably. So, yeah. Oh, no, here's what I do. I walk up and boost to hit the Gorehound, and then realize, oh, wait, he is in Fog of War and Prowl. But it didn't matter anyways because I rolled terribly. I'm happy with where my jacks are, because they're just a wall in front of Helynna. I just properly face them. And I say, Tim, it's all you. Deal with what I've given you.
And it's a problem. It's a real puzzle to deal with. Lost a lot of pieces this turn, including the Cage Rager, which I did not adequately anticipate. I probably should have figured something out about that. Measured the Phoenix with threat range. Didn't think that you'd get quite as much damage in, but the flank is a big deal. Like it can really up the damage potential of all the marshaled lights. So, Maintenance phase, place on a road marker. I jumped behind that obstruction. Getting into the turn, beginning of turn effects like apparition. Gonna place some models. Everything else like that. We're set to go. It's not probably a turn where I can kill a heavy, which is what that unit of Nayslayers in the bottom corner really wants to be doing. And I have to clear all of the sentinels in the way first. And again, none of this is that is that possible when your feet's up.
Yeah.
Like the feat is just worth so much damage mitigation.
Because typically Nayslayers will kill sentinels, but not when they need, like, their dice -8. Typically 9, but you have Fortune's Path up, so.
Yeah, I did end up doing the thing I said I didn't want to do. Procced Fortune's Path against the turn that Evan was feeding. The lines have closed. If I don't do it now, I'm going to have trouble doing it.
Yeah, especially in later turns when I can force you to use your Trump Arcana as opposed to Fortune's Path, and then you just don't get any benefit the next turn. Then I probably just kill enough models that you can't do anything with it. But here you go, making what you can of it.
Here's the hope. We're going to do it.
Just rolling up some Hollow Men shots. These are armed 23 Sentinels, assuming they're base to base.
23 is pretty okay. It's to the point now where if I bayonet charge and go to power strength 11, which is also the base power strength of the regular shot of a military rifle, the power strength 11 is needing 13s to kill you. So cannot do it on a gun unless I CRA, cannot do it in a melee game or even a friendly pickup game without just rolling crazy bonkers.
Yep. Sentinels. They weren't on the table for a while because themes existed, and they didn't exist in themes, and now they do.
I think you'll be seeing Sentinels on the table in your Retribution matchups.
Yeah.
I really like Helynna. She's a battle box caster that I feel like has more depth than the battle box really shows. Like, she runs a good battle group well, and a lot of people I talked to played her in like Forges of War, but I think she actually supports like the combined arms Dawnguard theme better than almost anyone does. I end up charging some Nayslayers into Sentinels, which, as we've talked about, is a bit of a waste, but their efforts are somewhat wasted.
Yeah, they just can't do it. You even mentioned here you went and intentionally impact attacked and then realized that you could not possibly do damage, so the rest of them didn't.
Yep. I was like, I'll impact here, and mathematically impossible to hurt you. Never mind impact attacks.
Yeah.
Just lances.
Yep. And the issue with this is also that if they don't kill their charge target, they can't repo away or else they just die.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of awkwardness there because they really don't want to be engaged. They really want to charge something, kill something, repo out. You're making my gremlins stand their ground. It's not exactly their job.
Yeah, no. Your Gorehound pulls the Griffin out of the zone.
Yeah, the Gorehound's a hero.
You're trying to clear this zone this turn, although it's going to be hard. There's feeded on Sentinels. You've now dealt with the Griffin, thankfully. Gorehound's going to need to really roll well here in order to do the work it wants. I think it chewed through the force field and then did a couple more boxes, but didn't do any significant damage to the Griffin. You had a tree come in now.
Yep, tree's going to come in, try to do tree things. It takes control of the second to last Sentinel who's in the zone. It gets him to advance. He's now just outside the curvature of that zone. He attacks his buddy, who's the last model in the zone, and finishes him off.
Yeah. Witchwoods, they've just been the bane of my army of this game. Especially, like, these Sentinels just can't resist. Can't resist those apples.
The apples. Delicious, delicious apples. There's a how about them apples joke there somewhere, I think.
Yeah, probably.
All right. So, we've got a limited effectiveness turn here. And I don't even have like a good activation for the Wanderer. He's probably just going to stay hidden behind that building, cast another Starcrossed. I was tempted to come up and put like a big spray that debuffed a whole bunch of Sentinels in a row, but I'm not having trouble hitting. I'm having trouble with the level of armor you're bringing.
Yep. It's a thing. These Nayslayers move into position. That wall building has been a huge help to you this game, though, because you can just hide behind that with star-crossed up and not worry at all.
On one hand, yes, absolutely. It's the place to hide for me, and it's been essential to that. On the other hand, it did really force me to split my army in a really weird way. That's made it very, very difficult to actually pin down your battle group. So, pros and cons. It's just that that line of sight blocking piece of terrain in the middle of the board that has just dictated what our matchups feel like the entire time.
Fair enough. I kind of planned around having Sentinels go either way anyways, so maybe I just felt it was appropriate for me and that you would feel similar. But apparently not.
I definitely feel that it's great defensively, but it did just kind of like control the way that the board shaped up, which is more an observation that's interesting than a criticism.
Mm-hmm. Gorehound goes, kills the Sentinel because he can pull it out and then just eat it. Now these bayonet charging hollow men go.
Yep. Remember when I said that the power strength 11 gunshots literally could not do damage? Well, let's charge and try to roll 13s. 13s is a lot on their dice.
The ones with Fortune's Path can do it with 12s.
That's true. Fortune's Path only affects enemy models that are in my control area, so the standard bearer doesn't get it, but the other guys do.
Yep, and you do kill him. So now I have Vengeance on both units.
Not ideal, but what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, and I think that's... You just have some... the support staff to go and one Gorehound. They're going to bring back the Nayslayer I killed with an Oblit.
Sure are.
And a Murder Crow.
Sisters. Gotta do it.
And a Murder Crow. And then the Murder Crows are just going to go and be a pain. And one of them gets to attack.
Yeah, it's a hard knocked life for those Murder Crows. They're really, really accurate, but they cap out at power strength 13, and they really don't like fighting against things that just have huge armor values.
Yeah. Thankfully, none of the Nayslayers killed their charge targets, so they couldn't repo away, so I'm just going to get to take vengeance swings at them without having to move.
Yay.
Yay! Gorehound runs away. Wanderer activates, puts up Starcrossed, places a Veil of Mists in a pretty inconvenient position for me.
I mean, the Veil of Mists there is mostly so that I can kind of maybe potentially protect something behind it and just, appreciate a little cloud hanging out there. It does allow my models to move through it when they're like to move through other models when they're in the Veil of Mists, at least partially. But it's not the most important part of the Wanderer's toolbox. I think mostly I like it for line of sight blocking here.
So now we're both at one control point because you get a point for that top zone. I got one for the middle zone last turn. So we're kind of trading up here. Vengeance attacks go. Stab a tree. Do some damage. Stab a tree. Leave it on one box. Griffin goes. Stabs a Gorehound, I believe. That was the last Sentinel killing a Nayslayer. Now I go stab the Gorehound. Don't quite hit because I can't do anything like True Strike or Crush because just Vengeance. That's him done. Then bottom unit goes. They're just going to shuffle around and stab stuff that is in melee. So some Hollowmen, some Nayslayers, some Murder Crows, basically the whole...
Yeah, I had to bleed a whole bunch of army to you here, so...
Yeah. Just the entire infantry menagerie. Unfortunately, Starcrossed is still up, so this is a pain. 6 hits, kills. Hollowmen crushes it.
Oh, yeah.
Hollowmen again. This is a Murder Crow this time. I missed the Murder Crow. Nayslayer, trip 1s. Woo! Other thing, kill other thing. Murder Crow. So Vengeance, again, doing work for me.
Yep.
Getting more of that infantry out.
As I mentioned before, it's basically like the unit gets to activate twice, which is pretty amazing.
Power some stuff up. I'm going to give the... I believe this is a turn where I give the Phoenix another focus, just because I think he's going to use his gun to good work against that nice little clump of 3 dudes in the top zone off to the right side next to the wall, because that AoE gun is amazing.
Yeah, it's one of the better pieces. I mean, just having that transformational battle group that is like a really, really good gun line that just performs really well on the gun stage, and then suddenly snap your fingers and it's a melee force, like a pure all melee force.
Yeah.
I really like it.
So, boost. Here we go, right off the bat. Star-crossed, I still hit, doesn't matter. Immediately kills the middle guy. I hard roll the first damage roll. I need a 6 to kill. Does it. I boost the second one. Kills him too.
Yep. It's a pretty big deal. Things are going pretty well for Evan.
Sentinels go. They're going to try to stab some Nayslayers as well as kill that Witchwood.
Witchwood?
Yes.
The only one remaining.
Not anymore. Other Sentinel stabs a Nayslayer. Basically just trying to clear out this zone now. Still getting in flank for that Gorehound.
It's pretty amazing. The flank on the light side, I hadn't given credit to how much ability you have to increase their abilities.
Yeah. Arcanist just barely in range to give him a focus. The other 2 aren't. I run this one to engage a Nayslayer because Nayslayers don't like being engaged.
They do not. Nayslayers have a bad time being engaged.
Yeah.
They really, really need to charge with their hobby horses.
Yeah. I go to charge with the Sire over the rubble, and then it is pointed out to me that he does not have Relentless Charge.
Yeah, doesn't have Relentless Charge, doesn't have Pathfinder. I was quite taken aback by it. I mean, he feels like kind of a buffed up version of a Sentinel, but in point of fact, he really isn't in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he's missing kind of one of the most important rules that Sentinels have, but whatever.
I mean, it is a rule that's new to this edition, so maybe he's a little bit more of a throwback model.
Fair enough.
But yeah, he's super strong.
All right, so we've moved our Arcanists. I don't think I can clear that top zone, but I have some plans. I think I'm going to try. Yeah. So I believe I'm explaining to Tim now that if I move Helynna in such a way that I can shoot that one Hollow Man, I can push him with my gun to a position that everyone is hit by an obliteration, and that clears the zone for me.
It's more than a little cute. I liked it. Thought it was cool.
And then eventually I realized that even if I do clear the zone, it doesn't matter because I have no full units that can get into there, and it's irrelevant. But killing everything would be nice. This is the Griffin just going for True Strike and murderizing a Gorehound with little to no issue whatsoever.
Yeah. Strike true, little the old Mat 10, and Dice even dead.
Yep.
Oh no, I have an extra focus.
So this Griffin, this 8-point light, has killed a heavy that is worth 14 points? 15?
14.
14-point heavy. And how many points is a Gorehound?
6.
It's 20 points. Not bad. Hitting above his weight class.
To be fair, he's only doing that because he has a 4-point attachment, which you can get free in the theme.
Yup. Is pretty all right. So this is the proxy base that I'm talking about, that if I pull him to there, I can obliterate it and then just kill everything. And then I realize that it's not very useful to do that.
Not at this juncture.
So instead, I turn my attention to the bottom zone. Still have a full unit of Sentinels to activate that will do some work after they've vengeanced. I still have a Hydra to go that can just, like, zot a thing with his big-ass gun. And then I have a Manticore that can dial up a gun and maybe do some covering fire.
Yeah, Manticores, especially with Hint of Destruction, which you actually haven't cast yet, Manticores can do some really impressive things.
Yeah, they have some really good potential for both range and melee with the D3 shots and the +3 strength potential in melee, so they can just either smash stuff or light up some infantry. It's a lot of versatility in this, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the watchword for Retribution, is that versatility.
Yeah.
The strong options in melee, strong options in range. I mean, you see it all across the board.
Yeah. I shot my gun at the Nayslayer engaged with the Sentinel, because if I can hit it, I can push it 3 inches and then get that sweet, sweet obliteration on more models and not have to target an engaged one. I missed, said, whatever, screw it, I'll do it anyway. And then you cast Ruin, so my obliteration does not go off.
Yep.
And I am sad. So I'm like, fine, I'll just use Sentinels instead of clearing out those 4 infantry models and then using them to charge a Gorehound and a Hollow Man and clearing the zone and scoring a point. Sad face.
Yep. It's a pretty big deal.
It is a very big deal. Had I gotten that obliteration, who knows where it could have scattered. It's just that it was like fairly likely to at least clear out 2 or 3 of those models, and I get those charges one way or the other then. So yeah, we're there. This one goes. I can't actually see it through the cloud, as it's pointed out to me, so I move into the cloud and do it anyway. Boosted, need an 11. This time I crank it, and then I just one-shot it even if I boost, or even without boosting, so I have 2 focus for next turn, because I'm Hydra with the focus battery, which is pretty sweet. Dial up the guns with the Manticore, boost a hitter, miss the Starcrossed on the second shot as well, so I don't get to kill both Twilight Sisters this turn, so there will still be at least a little bit of recursion, but it's one less Nayslayer I'll have to deal with in the future. Rhythm of Warp rocks, I bunker up to block some line of sight to Helynna. I move the Phoenix back for next turn so that he's in a better position to deal with whatever you might have to. And Tim, it's off to you. You teleport the Wanderer up. What's the plan?
So, getting pretty aggressive. I kind of have to because I'm really, really bleeding pieces hard. Feet's gone, so that's something. But you still have more Sentinels than I can really afford. And you've taken out the UA, so half the recursion's gone on the bottom unit here. I don't know, Evan. It's not looking good. But we got a lot of tools. Grim can have a lot of tools in general. So it's time to figure out a plan. I checked to see if I beacon with the Wanderer from his new position. The Gorehound is in 14 inches to charge. Now, for him to charge, I'll have to kill a Sentinel to open up line of sight for him. Drop a Veil of Mists to let him move through models, rely on his Ghostly to not take the free strikes, and then have his Mat 6 hit you. Presumably you'll then be flared if I also got you beaconed, which means I'll need 7s to hit, even that it's not a great assassination run, but we might be getting to the point where that's almost all I have. So
yeah,
I'm trying.
That's a lot of things that you had.
It's a lot of ifs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have a lot of pieces left here. It's a bit rough. I mean, your list had a lot of concentrated delivery and a lot of hard-hitting, devastating power. And I think I played my list inadequately cagey. Definitely a part of the game.
Yeah. I certainly was worried about being a primarily melee list, going into some guns. Kind of felt like walking into a firing squad, but I had the armor for it.
Yeah, and, being a bunch of guns isn't great when your army delivers against a bunch of guns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, D-Cell, the feet, the mini feet, I mean, it's all ideal. And you closed pretty fast, like that extra deployment zone, everything running quickly in the first turn. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah, the extra deployment zone is huge with something like Sentinels, especially because it lets you kind of flex around terrain a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, the kind of terrain pieces that you're going to be like a couple of inches into at the end of your first turn, you're a couple more inches deeper into, which can make all the difference. So
Nayslayer charges. They start to clear out the way for Mr. Gorehound over here.
The crazy cool Gorehound play. We skipped over the fact that the Wanderer did manage to beacon her, and he did manage to hit her with Repudiate, and he took 3 damage from Repudiate after it stripped. So
no more Rhythm of War, and now there's a Gorehound in my face, and I'm not particularly happy about either of those things.
Yeah, I did get to do that cute little Veil of Mists play, but I did miss my charge attack with the Gorehound. Needing
Rough.
needing a 7 to hit. I decide to try to hard roll it. I feel like I need to get a little lucky to make this work, and it misses.
Yeah.
So we buy an attack. It hits. Pulls you in. It's dice minus 3. Doesn't quite do it. And buy some more attacks. Hit. Dice minus 3. Chip some more damage into you. At this point, I think you've taken 6 or 9, something like that.
I have taken 3 damage from the Gorehound and 3 damage from Repudiate.
And you still have a focus?
And I still have a focus. Because last turn when I went to Obliterate, you ruined it, and I had 1 left.
Ruined it. Gotta love that Arcana.
Yep.
In some ways, I'm actually kind of glad that you weren't in my control area when I used Ruin, because you targeted something in my control area, which allowed me to use it, but I didn't remove your upkeep, which allowed me to repudiate you for 3 damage.
Yeah.
Clutch offensive nuke. Repudiate.
It's an interesting one, that's for sure. These Hollowmen are going to start taking some shots. They gang up on the Sire here. It's not nice.
Well, I mean, he's a jerk.
Well, they leave him on 1 box.
Because he's a jerk.
Nayslayers can't charge. They just have to use their horses. Horse kick. Rolls pretty well. Kills the Sentinel. Gives him vengeance. Other one kills an Arcanist. All right, whatever. Gives righteous vengeance to the Griffin.
Yeah. Righteous Vengeance is a pretty good Jack Marshall bonus.
Yeah, it is. Also gives it to Sire, but 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah.
Now we're going in with the Twilight Sister was just going to, what is it, bleed she has?
It's different. It's a little bit like Bone Shaker, but I think it's called Death Rattle or Death Shaker or something like that.
Okay.
It basically is like Bone Shaker, but doesn't have the advancement clause.
Okay. So you don't kill a Sentinel with that, but you do with the Murder Grow or Hollow Man that is still there. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you place your road tokens markers because it's the end of the turn.
Yeah, so I'm really hoping I can use my Divergent Path to not just get assassinated here. Placed my road markers fairly carefully, and I stuck one way up at the front, just in case.
Yeah, so here I realize that the Hydra's fully fueled, and I power up the Phoenix for 1 and the Manticore for 1. I don't need to give the Phoenix any focus, because 2 Arcanists can just put them to full. I'm going to just clear the top zone because I have enough time on my clock to do that. And just in case I don't just, kill the Wanderer, because I might just not. Because as much as he doesn't have Starcross up this turn, Divergent Path just causes me issues.
It is a really, really weird Arcana. It is sometimes the most powerful thing imaginable. And sometimes it's wholly irrelevant and prevents you from doing better things.
Yeah. So Griffin goes, stabs a dude. That was vengeance. Other guys go, stab some dudes. Do more vengeance.
Yep, all the vengeance.
Somewhat ironically, on this turn with Starcross not up, I miss more vengeance attacks than I do on previous turns. Hooray.
Yep, that's pretty okay. So I don't have an Arcana that cares about that.
So Helynna's going to start. She's going to... this is me still doing my allocation, not realizing the things that I already said. I'm going to basically boost a Hand of Destruction at the Wanderer. He'll have that on him then. Really good spell. Gives me an additional die to hit and damage, dropping lowest for my battle group. Then I'm going to try to force strike him to the ground so that he's knocked down, and makes it really easy for the rest of my battle group to get work done against him.
Yeah, I mean, that force strike, pretty clutch.
Yeah. And I'll also... I'm also going to, at the end of this, probably try to swing at the Gorehound, get him out of my melee, be less of a pain. So I get the Hand of Destruction off, which is good because my 4-strike now gets an additional die drop lowest. Unfortunately, the 3s that I roll on the low end are the double, so I don't get the crit knockdown because I have to drop one of the 2 of them. But I roll ridiculously well for damage and do something like, 13 damage? Leave him on 1 or 2 boxes. It's not great for him. Or not 1 or 2, but not a whole lot of boxes. After that, let's see what we got. So this Sentinel's going to walk a bit. This Sentinel's going to walk a bit. I realize that I'm probably leaving the melee of the Hollow Men, so we bump it back a bit. He kills the Twilight Sister. The other one swings at the Wanderer and misses. Whoop-de-doo. That's fine. If I could have blown Divergent Path with a Sentinel and had my full battle group ready to go, it would have been pretty sweet, but I don't have that, so whatever, we'll take what we can get. Clearing the top zone just because we can. Griffin goes, is a hero. 2 Sentinels, kill 2 Hollowmen. That zone is clear. Phoenix goes, faces in such a way that if I force him to use Divergent Path with this attack, if he teleports to the one super aggressive, I still get to buy attacks on him, which is not a thing he would like. So he does use it. He transfers it to a Gorehound, almost one-shot that Gorehound, and he backs off. So now I have the Phoenix and the I have the Hydra and the Manticore. When I attacked the Gorehound with Helynna, I pushed it in the melee range of the Manticore, just thinking, oh, if I need to kill this later, it's there. Unfortunately, that would have meant that I couldn't make range attacks, but the Hydra just kind of kills the Wanderer with the few boxes he had left. And that's the game, guys. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this week's battle report with the Wanderer and Helynna, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.